So I've started recording. So news site number 2. Again, we're on the second day of a week-and-a-half long project when it comes to React. And remember that each day is going to build on the day before. So you can't get to news site 2 until you finish news site 1. You can't do news site 3 until you do 2, and so on and so forth, all the way until the very end. It's got most of the setup going on here. And one thing I did notice right away was that everything was broken yesterday. And it was nighttime. I was trying to work through it in preparation for today. I was furious. I was like, where did all this garbage code come from? And it turns out one of the old students from another cohort unfortunately merged into master. And then I was like, oh, and I didn't see it because I had updated so many things prior to then. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that sucks. So I wiped it all clean. Sorry if you started doing it yesterday, but it is all fixed right now. So 2 lessons for me. One of them is don't let anybody push to master. And number 2, always check that there is something there beforehand. Like make sure it's all good beforehand. So we're going to build on news site 1 and build out news site number 2. There's a fairly large jump in terms of skill level between news site 1 and news site 2. There's a lot of different things that are going to happen. But we're just going to kind of follow this one by one. And I expect this to take an entire hour. If you don't understand anything that I'm saying, I would recommend that you stop. Like you just stop me and make sure that you know what's going on. I'm just going one by one. So it says, each day the news site's going to build on the previous day. We're going to build 1 new component, 2 pages, and a routing system. You might have noticed we just have 1 giant page right now with no other pages. We're going to implement all of that kind of stuff. We're going to modularize or move code from 1 giant area into small little modules. So before beginning this challenge, copy over all of the folders from one place into the other. So I'm just going to do that real quick. I've cloned down news site number 2. I have news site number 1 from yesterday. And if I recall correctly, they are going to have me copy over app.js and dump it in here. They're going to have me copy over all 3 of these folders and pop it in here. And there's this brand new one. This article list is the new component that we're going to be working with today. If all goes well, I can open up my text editor. I'm just going to do npm start. So I just did number 1. I just moved all the folders from yesterday into today. Remember, you can't do number 2 until you finish number 1. You can't do 3 until you do 2, and so on and so forth. We've also moved over app.js from news site number 1 into number 2. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to bring in React Bootstrap. So you go on this site, it looks terrible. I mean, obviously, this is our day 1, and we're going to make this look better overall. But right now, it looks terrible. We want some nice styling. You can either, like we did in week 5, either write all your HTML and all your CSS on your own, or you can use Bootstrap. I'm going to recommend that you're going to use Bootstrap. It's fairly easy to install it. The instructions are right here. Create React App has a Bootstrap template that helps us install everything. So once this loads up, we're just going to run a few commands, and we're going to get Bootstrap inside of our app for right now. We're not going to do anything with it quite yet, but we're just going to set it up so that we don't have to worry about it later. And it just says npm install -- save React Bootstrap, specifically Bootstrap 3. If you take a look under package.json, you can kind of see the dependencies right now. We don't have Bootstrap at all. So I'm just going to dump this in here. It's going to run through a gigantic installation, and you'll see under the dependencies and dev dependencies, one of these 2 is going to have React Bootstrap show up. Any questions so far? Again, all I'm doing is I'm going out, grabbing the library Bootstrap, and then throwing it inside here. Feel good? Alternatively, you can use Yarn. We're not using Yarn, we're using npm. The next thing, it says import Bootstrap CSS and the theme CSS into your source index.js file. Just copy this. There is my Bootstrap right there, who wasn't there before. And under index.js, I'm just going to copy and paste the code that was there and just dump it in. Very simple, 3 lines of code that we just copied and pasted directly. If you want to go further, you can import all of these things. We don't need any of these right now. We're going to need to import things at a later time. All right. So if all goes well, I should have the exact same thing as I had yesterday. So I'm just going to run npm start. My server will begin. We'll just make sure that everything still looks and works exactly the same as it did yesterday. Okay, so we have 3 components on the page: the navigation, a teaser, and then the actual article itself. And again, everything is just smashed together on one giant page because that's what we're dealing with right now. If all goes well, I can click around and make sure that everything is working. So if I click on opinion, it'll console log opinion and national and upshot and everything like that. This seems like it works. Same thing down over here. When I click on this, when I click on that, it returns me the ID number of that particular article. But one thing it's also doing is it's also visiting /hashtag. And I don't really want it to do anything right now. Generally speaking, when I click on something, there's an event that fires off, and I want to prevent that from happening right now because I want to manage everything using React. So right now, it sends me to the hashtag. So I want to stop it from doing that. So I'm just going to add this one little line, event.prevent default, and that's going to stop that from happening. I can still click it. It'll still do stuff like the console log, but it won't take me to this hashtag. Again, I'm on localhost, just on the main root page right here. Click on this, and it takes me to hashtag. I don't want to go there. So which component manages this particular thing? Article teaser. So I'm going to open up article teaser. It's under components, article teaser, article teaser.js, and there it is. It's right there. It's taking me, whenever I click on it, it's console logging the ID that's coming out, and it's taking me to hashtag. So I'm going to do just one thing. Put this on a new line, put this on a new line. Everyone feel comfortable so far? Whenever you click on something, so on click, an event fires off. So I've got the event for free, and I'm just going to stop anything from happening, and I'm just continuing on, and that's it. If all goes well, refresh this page, go back to the one without the hashtag on it. Something is broken. Might be just a simple issue with, I forgot, opening braces and closing brace. Okay. If all goes well, I can click on this. It'll console log out the number, but it won't add the hashtag on top. So there's that number, and then the hashtag is not up top. So that's that event.prevent default. It stops the default thing from happening. You're going to need to use that quite often. So we have a brand new component that's showing up on the page, and it's article list. So you can kind of think of it like when I go to newyorktimes.com. Well, let's do a quick exercise. So I go to newyorktimes.com, and an entire web page loads up. If you had to break this down in terms of components, again, components are just code that's reusable on the page. What are some of the reusable components that you see on the page? We did it yesterday with Instagram.
Nav bar.
There's a nav bar. This is definitely something that they wrote it once, and they just said, like, copy and paste it and just put it in there. Okay? What else?
Like whatever that section is that shows, like, I guess the
yeah, this left. Yeah, this is probably like headline news component or something like that. I'm just making this up. On the right side, there's probably like opinion component, and inside of there, the opinion component has one, two, three, four individual article teasers, right? So it's over here under opinion, there's a list of articles, and each one of these individual articles is an article teaser. Like it's just like I read one sentence, and if I'm interested, I click it and I move on to the full article. So again, I have maybe just a header component, a nav bar component, a headline component, and under the headline component, I have an article list. This is one article, this is another article, this is another article, this is another article. Those are all article teasers. So an article list has many article teasers. When I click on this one, it actually takes me to the actual full article. And then what they might see is if you have an article component, maybe this is the title. This, if there's a picture, they'll put the picture up there. Maybe it has a byline underneath, the author name, the date, and then the entire content. And again, this is reusable upon page after page. It's basically looking for those particular things, and it's just copy and paste from one area to another. It's a giant form letter. Dear first name, last name. Your Chase account has been deactivated or something like that. Sincerely, blah. You know, but they don't individually create a specific file for each individual person. They just have one giant file, and they just grab your name from the database and they put it in. Same thing over here. They're not creating new pages every single time you visit. It just follows one formula. Title, picture if it's there, who the author is, date, and then boom, there's all the content. So similarly here, I want one particular page, like my home page here, I just want a list of all articles. So when we jump over here and we look here, it says we have an article list component. It's going to receive two properties. One of them is articles, which is the entire array of articles, and the handle title click, which is currently just a function. It's going to receive an array of articles. I'm going to map over each one of those articles and it'll create a bunch of teasers. So let's take a look. So I've got article teaser right here. So I'm going to create many of these. And then I also have an article list.js. All right, so if I have an article list and I'm going to automatically receive articles and handle title click, those are the two properties being passed down from one component into another. And I'm going to create many article teasers based off of that. What are the properties that every single article teaser needs?
Title.
Looks like I need a title. Yeah, it looks like this.props requires a title, a created date, and then a handle title click. So it needs three things. So again, inside of my constructor, I've been given a thing of an array of articles. How do I map over those articles to create a bunch of article teasers?
We just do this dot where it's coming from, so that would be the article.
It doesn't even matter where it's coming from because it is passed down as props.
Right. Props.
Yep.
Dot article. And then dot map. Mm-hmm. And then open. Yep. And then we'll just call it article index. Yep. Add an arrow. And then from here, we want to do, I guess, H2.
I don't even need H2. I'm just going to create article teasers. So I'm going to create article teaser.
Oh, gotcha.
Like that. And you said it requires an ID number, a title, and a created date. So ID equals something, title equals something, and created date equals something. I'm going to set this to const teasers equals that. I'm going to interpolate it down over here. All right. For the ID, what thing is going to be my ID? Like how do I, so I've got a list of articles, like an array of articles, and I need to pass down the ID, the title, and the created date. I'm interpolating a whole bunch of stuff here, but I don't know what to put inside the interpolation.
You put this.props.articles.id.
So that's over here. This dot props dot. So I have the article. So it's this dot props dot articles, and this dot props dot articles is an array of article objects. So it looks like this. It's an array of objects like this. So ID is just going to be index, and because I'm mapping over a collection, I have the index of each individual article. The title is going to be, it's not this dot articles dot article dot title. It's just article dot title because I have an individual one from here. And then the created date, I believe it's created underscore date. Article dot created underscore date. So I create an array full of, let me just make this one page. I have an array full of article teaser objects, and I'm just going to interpolate them out to the screen. I think that's it. Let's refresh the page, and nothing has happened so far. Makes sense because I haven't done anything to app.js. So I've set up my article list to be used for later, and now we're going to talk about something called React Router. Right now, everything lives on one page. Sucks. Like that's not the way that we do things in terms of like, not everything is one giant single page app. Inside of Rails, which file had all the routes inside of it?
Routes files?
Yep, the routes file had all of that code inside of it. Here we're going to put it inside of app.js. But inside of app.js, we're going to actually not have we're going to have a router down over here in the return. So when you take a look under React Router, it basically tells you how do I create a like a routing system inside of React. First things first, I'm just going to run npm install react router dom -- save to basically bring in this React Router library inside of my React app. So I'm going to kill this down here, paste that in, and then run npm start after it's finished. The way that this works is a little something like this. I'm going to import some random component, and then I'm going to have this code, browser router, and then a closing browser router tag. Whenever anybody visits /component X, what's going to handle it is this particular component X. Hopefully this is finished. So I've npm installed React Router DOM. I'm going to bring in these two sub-libraries from the React Router DOM package. Throw that all the way at the top up here. And generally what I do is any sort of things that I require from outside I put first, and then anything that's I'm importing from the inside of my app I put second. So like React and the component from the React library, and the browser router and the route from React Router DOM, I'm bringing in from putting up top. All of these other things are the things I bring in that I wrote myself. At this particular point, I'm going to have two routes in my return. So I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to essentially destroy everything that I've got in here. So get rid of all this, get rid of my teasers, get rid of my article, and instead all I'm going to do is have this React Router. I'm going to move the nav bar a little bit up here. And I've kind of simplified my app.js. So instead of app.js holding all the code for every single component, I'm basically saying all that app.js has is it's just a router at this point. It's going to load up the navigation bar at the very top, and then there's two routes that you can go to. Whenever anybody goes to /, the component that's going to handle it is homepage, whenever anybody makes a request to /articles/article ID, component that's going to handle it is going to be article page. So I go back over here, refresh the thing, everything is broken. So we're going to go just basically one by one to try to fix it. The first thing says article teaser is defined but never used. Same thing with article. Okay. Get rid of this, get rid of that. All right, now I got two things. Article page and home page are not defined. It looks like I'm using variables down over here on line 64 and 65 with home page and article page, and both of those things are not imported at the very top. There's a new way that we're going to keep track of each one of our web pages, and that's under pages right here. We've got article page and homepage.js. So because they were undefined, I'm going to do import homepage from, I think it's pages homepage.js, and the same thing, import article page from pages/article page.js. Now, since we're bringing these two things in, let's take a look at what they actually are. I'm going to open up homepage.js and see what we've got. So it looks like homepage extends from component. I only got one thing, which is a return here, and I'm returning an article list component. Remember, that's the thing that we worked on. We're passing in news, and we're passing in handle title click. Did we do this correctly? Let's take a look. So article list.js, and then let's open up homepage.js. So it looks like you're passing down articles and handle title click. I don't believe we're passing down handle title click. So you can kind of see I start from app.js. App.js loads up homepage. Homepage loads up article list, and then article list lists out teasers. So remember when I said that we have to keep track of this, and it was kind of stupid because it was only one class that we were dealing with. Now we're dealing with 4. So you have to know exactly like which this you're talking about at that point. If all goes well, I think article teaser is not done yet. Article teaser requires handle title click, so we need to pass down handle title click as well. Handle title click equals this.props.handle title click. So again, homepage, all it's doing is rendering out a list of articles. The article list component. The article list component lists out a whole bunch of article teasers, and the article teaser just is a bunch of links. If all goes well, everything's broken. Find out. All right, let's see. Article is defined but never used in article page.js. That's fine. Let me just kill this real quick. npm start. All right, so I'm on my home page right here. It's under /. So whenever anyone makes a request to that, the home page component is going to take over. Home page of the component is loaded over here. I'm just going to throw an h1 of home page just to make sure that this is even firing off before I do anything else. So I'm here on the home page, so I know that I've actually reached this particular point. Next, I am creating a whole bunch of article lists. I'm passing all these things down over here. I'm passing down articles and handle title click into article list. Stop props. I need a return right here. Homepage, and then a whole list of article teasers. whenever I click on any one of these things, let's see what happens. If I click on the opinion, hopefully it still console logs the opinion out. And when I click on this, what happens? To do, use React Router's history.push method to change the page to /article/article ID. Okay. So to do, all right. So basically what happens is whenever you click a link, it's a GET request in the background. Usually you send that over to your, usually you send that request over to the backend, to your server, and the server makes a whole bunch of database requests, builds the entire page, and brings it back out to the server. So it's very backend heavy. I click one thing, my browser doesn't need to do anything but wait. It hits the server hits the database comes back with data, creates an entire HTML page like we were doing with Rails, and then puts that back out on the screen. That's a lot of work for the database for one click. The idea is there's too many people in the world. There's so many people in the world that are making requests to your database over and over again that you're not going to be able to actually keep up with that kind of demand. So why don't we pass that off to these people's devices the entire time? So what React gives us is something called this.props.history.push. You can kind of think of the history that you've visited as a giant queue. If you shove in a new place that you have to go visit, and then it automatically loads that up, it'll take you to that particular page. Let me show you what this is. So as of right now, homepage, whenever I click it, I'm going to get back an article ID, and right now it's just console logging this thing. Instead of console logging, I'm going to do this.props.history.push. And if I'm not mistaken, that's all I've got to do. So it used to just console log something out, and now I'm going to push for React to visit this particular site, which is /articles/whatever article ID was passed back to me. If all goes well, this will automatically refresh for me. And when I click on this, it'll push my URL up here to /articles/1. And you'll notice that was pretty fast because it's actually not making a request. It's just taking you to a new part of the React app that your browser is handling. And all it says right now is just article page. So whenever anybody visits /articles/article ID and /articles/1, the component that handles it is going to be the article page, found right over here. Right now it just says article page, and instead I want to load up the entire article itself. Any thoughts on how to bring out the full article? Again, right now all it says is just article page, but I'm passing, it looks like I have access to the ID inside the URL. So what are the series of steps that I would need to do to get that article and print out the article to that page?
Well, don't we have an article page component? So we can just use the article page component to it.
And it looks like there's article.js, and there it displays a whole bunch of stuff. But how do I get the article itself? Because it's expecting this.props.title, this.props.created date, this.props.abstract. It has all of those things. Like, how do I get that? So again, this is just a reusable bit of code, and it's very stupid. It needs to be told what to do it needs to be told all the information in order to do anything. Article page, I don't have the article.
So don't need to do some variables where we can store the.
So again, I'm visiting this page, /articles/article ID. in our case, /articles, and then article ID is number 1. This page needs to somehow get the article and then pass all of its information down into the article component.
We need like an article ID,
yep.
like that. Yeah. So then we can look at that.
Yep. Yeah. All right. So the ID is in the URL right here, so I can just grab it. Like I should be able to just get it. I believe it is this.props.match.params.article ID. So remember when we were doing it in Rails, it was just params article ID. Similarly here, I'm going to grab it and just do this.props.match.params article ID. I have the news, so I think the article is just news article ID. And since these aren't going to change, I should probably just change these both to const instead of let. All right. From here, it's fairly simple. I am going to render out this particular article, and I'm going to get rid of this for now. And this article needs a few things. It needs the image, byline, title. I'm just going to copy all this and just paste it in here for now. All right, so it looks like I need image, byline, title, created date, and abstract. Title, created date, and abstract. All right, if all goes well, I can just do this. Article.image, article.byline, article.title. Save myself a little bit of time. And I'll just change these one by one. Title, created date, and then abstract. Let's see if this works. All right, today in Mosul, retaken parts of ISIS. So it looks like most of it's there, but where's my image? Seems to be a small little bug here. So let's just real quick, before the return statement, I'm just going to console log article. Because when I did article.image, nothing showed up. All right, so there's my article object. It looks like there's no image. Like it seems like maybe the API changed a little bit. Maybe the data that I expected is not there anymore. But it looks like there's multimedia. Looks like multimedia is an array. And the first thing has a URL for an image. So I'm going to just hard code that in there. So I believe it's article.multimedia@0.url. Article.multimedia at index 0.url. And there we have our the article page, the byline, the image, and all of this type of stuff here. When I go back to just the home page here, I've got the main home page, which is just the navigation bar at the very top. And again, that's loading every single time because it's the first thing that shows up under app.js. And then a whole list of article teasers. We're almost done. Right now it looks like crap. And I want to style it up a little bit. So I'm going to not look into this resource and just copy and paste the code that I've got over here. So inside of navigation, right now I'm just creating a bunch of links at the very top. But since I can style things using React Bootstrap, I'm going to import a few libraries: navbar, nav, and nav item from React Bootstrap. You can kind of see there's two different sets of highlighting. This one's real dark and this one's light because it says like, you brought it in, but you're not using it yet. it's just one of those things that VS Code gives you. And just for the sake of time, I'm going to do this. So all I've done is instead of creating a bunch of links, I still did that same thing. I create the constant called display nav. I'm going to map over all of the nav items and create a nav item React Bootstrap element rather than an href. From there, I set it up like this, and then I'm just going to, I'll just call this news site. We'll say bring that back to slash, and then I display this out to the screen. All goes well. This will automatically refresh for me, and it'll look actually like something I want to use. Like before, it just looked like a bunch of links, and now I've styled it using Bootstrap. It still has all the same functionality, where I can click on any one of these things, opinion, world, a whole bunch of times, upshot, and then I still know what I'm clicking on. If I click on this news site right here, it takes me back to the home page, which is nice. So we covered quite a bit. Let me just do a quick recap of what we've actually done. This is probably the biggest day in terms of a jump in terms of just the sheer volume of new concepts that are being taught. First things first, we added a brand new component. So now we have 4 separate components in addition to app.js. We talked about how do we do routing. Like when I go to /articles, like there should be a whole list of articles. When I go to /articles/article ID, like there's another bit of code that's handling that as well. So we used to do everything inside of routes.rb. This is the way that React does it. We talked about 2 pages. The pages that are loaded consist of many components. So the home page component for us just consisted of 1, but it could consist of more. So it's just article list, and the article page just had the article component inside of there. We were able to, whenever you clicked on something, we do this.history, this.props.history.push, so that it automatically forces your React route to go to this particular URL. And then we styled a little bit with Bootstrap. Any questions on anything? I'm sure there will be more when we get started on today's stuff. Let's take an 8-minute break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about salary negotiations.